Joining me now, we have Justin Wolfers, professor of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan. Good to see you again, Justin. So let's start here with those new numbers, indicating a majority of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, but Trump keeps pushing his message of economic strength. Take a listen.
Under our administration, growth is exploding, productivity is soaring, investment is booming, incomes are rising, inflation is defeated, America is respected again like never before, and other than that, we're not doing that well.
Is all that true?
Very hard for me to keep track in my head right now, Alex, but I think I counted 6 lies just as you played it just then. America's respect around the world is actually lower than it's been in decades. Inflation's not defeated. He said incomes are exploding. They are actually up. Inflation, I think he said he'd gotten that. But what else did he say in there?
He said growth is exploding. Okay, growth is exploding. Okay, that's a no.
False.
Productivity is soaring.
False.
Okay. Investment is booming.
No.
Okay. Incomes are rising.
A little bit.
Okay. Inflation is defeated.
No.
Okay. And you already went over Americans being respected again like never before. No. So new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows grocery prices, in fact, rose 2.4% in the last 12 months. And also, it shows that Donald Trump is starting to try to push banks to cap credit card interest rates. Is he starting to feel the pressure?
He's feeling the pressure in what he says. And it's really important here, Alex, to draw a distinction between what he says and what he does. So what does he say? He says he's going to put a 10% cap on interest rates. You know what he hasn't done? Put a 10% cap on credit card interest rates. There's all sorts of things that come out of the man's mouth. But if you want to think about the serious economic achievements, it's been tax cuts for the rich. It's been cutting government services and particularly payments that particularly target working and middle-class Americans. It's been a tax on healthcare, and it's been tariffs. And tariffs take a bigger chunk out of the paycheck of ordinary Americans than they do the very wealthy. That's what he does. What he's learned to do, though, is speak this populist thing where he announces a new policy every day, and then you have to have me on, and I have to tell you whether it's a good or a bad idea. Often it's a bad idea. Sometimes it's a popular idea. We end up talking about what he's talking about rather than talking about what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, in fact, since Liberation Day back in April, Trump promised that tariffs would bring the factories and the jobs roaring back to the U.S., but manufacturing employment, that's been on a steady decline each month, in fact, as small companies are struggling to manage the rising costs. So where are the jobs that Trump promised, and will we maybe, Justin, see them this year?
Look, this is just a mistaken economic theory. This is someone who I think struggled in his introductory economics class. But I want to give folks at home a very simple way of thinking about it. Realize that a lot of tariffs are tariffs actually on inputs into American production. For instance, Trump put enormous tariffs on steel. That's a little bit like putting tariffs on flour and asking what do you think is going to happen to bakeries. Steel, yes, we do have a small steel industry. A few more people will be employed in steel. But steel is used throughout the rest of the US economy. And what that means is that Americans, and only Americans, have to pay more for their steel as part of their input to their productive processes. A lot of manufacturing uses a lot of steel. Trump has put us at an enormous disadvantage relative to foreign competitors. And that's part of the story of what's going on there, that manufacturing employment just keeps shrinking.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday defended the DOJ's probe into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Listen to this.
It needs some pruning, and you could make each one of these reserve banks a center of excellence. It does need a thorough overhaul. And again, like I said, I've been calling for an internal investigation or an internal review of all this. So perhaps this will push that idea along.
So, Justin, what kind of impact could this divide over the Fed Reserve have on the markets? Could Trump's attacks against Powell compromise the integrity of what is supposed to be an autonomous bank?
Yeah, you'll notice there that Bessent was just trying to defend the president, but he didn't actually mention what the president did. The president threatened the Fed chair, Jay Powell, with jail. He threatened Jay Powell with jail for doing what Congress told Jay Powell to do, which is to focus our interest rate policy on keeping unemployment and inflation low. That is profoundly problematic. The question that markets face is, do you believe that Trump will follow through? If he does succeed at undermining the Fed, that means that monetary policy will be run in the best interests of the president rather than the best interests of the American people. We've seen presidents of other countries threaten their Fed chairs with jail before. These are countries, of course, like Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Turkey, Russia. These are basket cases. This is the stuff of tin pot dictators. We've seen this movie before. It never ends well. That list of countries I just told you about, by the way, many of them went on to have a hyperinflation not long after, because a political leader, when they have control of the Fed, often can't help themselves. They print money like crazy and cause really damaging inflation.
Last question here. It's about Canada and China, which, as you know, secured a new strategic partnership without U.S. involvement. Should the White House be concerned at all that U.S. allies are looking to move beyond the U.S. as a major trading partner, given Trump's tariff extremes on any given day?
It should be concerned, but it shouldn't be surprised. Because when basically you say to someone else, I'm not going to be a reliable friend, or I'll be friends with you, but, you know, in an on-again, off-again sort of a way, and I'll make you pay every now and then. Look, our friends in Europe, they need, and our friends in Canada, our friends in China, they need reliable trading partners. They need folks who are willing to meet them and meet their needs. And the thing about trade, the thing that the president always fails to understand, trade is not fundamentally about competition. It's not us versus Canada. It's us and Canada, for instance. Trade is about cooperation. It's how can people in the United States be made better off by people in other countries? How can people in other countries provide beautiful products that help us in the United States? We've decided we don't want to cooperate. They're going to cooperate with each other. That leaves less friends for the rest of us. That's very bad news for the United States.
Okay, Justin Wolfers, I'm glad you cooperate with our request to bring you on the show. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Pleasure.